This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 19th? Skynet. This is KF5 PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the post sign break and your call signs. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a TL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list, and remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. All amateurs to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So at this time, I'll over to my alternate net control, Tom, KU5ICX, if you will do the check-in honors, please.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Billy, and I loved your presentation today on the moon. Billy did a superb job on explaining how to look at the moon, all the different objects that were available, and you can see during all phases in that. It was a really, really good presentation. I enjoyed the heck out of it. But that's not what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I'm going to go ahead and do check-ins, so I'm going to take low-power short-time check-ins. If you are one of those, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low-power or short-time.
This is
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
This is Kilo India 5 Oscar Victor Victor. This is Chris in southeast Dallas, low power.
Okay, I got 3 on this round. I got WB4MFI, Ted in Dallas, low power. I've got a W5GUS Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power. I got KI5 Oscar Victor Victor, that's Chris, southeast Dallas, low power. Do I have any other low power short time stations? Please come now. Okay, I'll take that as a no. Does anybody checked in on low power on this first round have anything you want to bring to the net now before your battery fades? Please come with your call. All right, here we go. We're going to do general check-ins. This should be interesting. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. General check-ins.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Oscar Bravo, Philip from Crandall.
November 5 Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving. Kilo Foxtrot 5 Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
This is Kilo Echo 5 Echo November, Eric in Plano.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
This is Kilo Echo 5, Papa Oscar Echo Lee in Mansfield.
This is Kilo 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Okay, I'm going to need one fill, but I got everybody on this round. I got K5KOB, that's Philip in Crandall, welcome back. N5BB, Bill in Irving, good to see you today. K5ZBL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch, good to see you today. KEN, that's Eric in Plano, welcome. K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Quinlan. I've got also KE5 POE, that's Lee over in Mansfield. And then I got K*5 Whiskey Victor Charlie James in Carrollton. Could you give me my fill on your call, James?
Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima.
I needed a double on that. I got KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima. That's James in Carrollton. Welcome, James, and welcome back. I believe I just couldn't remember your call. Okay, I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you are transmitting from.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite. Well, I was at Frontiers of Flight Museum earlier.
And 5DY. Bill, Garland, Alpha, India 5, Delta Yankee.
Kilo 5, Golf Lima Delta, Randy Rowlett.
Okay, let's see here. I've got three. There was probably a double, so of course I'll do another round. I got KF5JHA, that's Chaz. Drop in any mailbox. Return postage guaranteed. Mesquite. AI5DY, that's Bill in Arlington. Welcome, Bill. I got you over on Echolink. I got K5GLD, that's Randy in Roulette. Do I have any additional over here? Please come now with your call sign phonetically and your name and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
All right, I picked up one more regular. I've got Patrick, KG5APL over in Dallas. I am now moving over to Echolink. Yes, you, Echolink. I'll go ahead and take your check-ins. I will give you extra time because Echolink is a little slow. Please come with your call sign name and, most importantly, where you're transmitting from. Echolink only, please.
So Golf 5, Zulu, Mike, Golf, Joe in Arlington.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John in southern Norman, Oklahoma.
Okay, I'm going to cut it at that point. I'm looking to see everybody else has checked in over RF, but I will get the Echolink stations like I said I would. I got KG5ZMG. That is Bill in Arlington. Welcome, Bill. I got K5GDW, John, up in his summer home in Oklahoma. The mansion up there. I've seen it. It's very nice. The gardens in the back are very, very cool. I like that very much. The spray and everything is fantastic. The goldfish are even better. John, I got you checked in. I will now open it up to anybody who would like to check. Oh, N5IMS is there. He says the cops are after him, so I have to be on the QT here. So that's JJ in Carrollton. So I got you checked in. I will now open it up to anybody who would like to check in. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Okay, I got WB5OZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto. Yes, I know the Olympics are on, and, you know, everybody saw that. Well, any rate, okay, fine. It's okay. Did they have boogie board? No, that's the winter ones. Never mind. Okay, let's see here. Let me go ahead and send it back to net control. We got a short list right now, 20 checked in, but I'll bet you they'll wander in from outside. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom, and welcome to all who have checked in to Skynet. All right, let's get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement, please come now with your call sign. Okay, not hearing any, so I'll go ahead with a few announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYP is net control. All are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC has hosted nets on Monday nights. First Monday of the month is Ham Fixins Net. This net is where you can share recipes, or if you have a question or anecdote about food, come share it on Ham Fixins Net. The second Monday of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. On the third Monday, come back for a second helping of Ham Fixins Net. And on fourth Monday is Geek Net. And if there's a fifth Monday of the month, it's a surprise net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East is at 8 p.m., question and answers, info and news for amateur satellites. And Fridays is Cert City, simulation, summer hours, 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday at CERT City. All are welcome. And Saturdays is the Night of Nets with TechNet from 8 p.m. and, of course, at 9 p.m., Skynet. And following Skynet at 10:30 p.m. is the Afterglow Movie Net. More to come on that here in just a moment. First and third Sundays is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. Daily, there is the Lunch Bunch at 12 noon, Monday through Friday. There's always a survey question. Eat lunch with us. And the ARRL Net, National Traffic System Training Net, is every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And all are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as I mentioned, following Skynet at 10:30 p.m. on Saturday night is the Afterglow Movie Net. If you're new to this net, here's how the Afterglow Movie Net works. We choose a movie after we discuss the movie from the previous week. We watch the chosen movie during the week, and then we come back on the following Saturday and discuss it on the net. So we cover things like plot, characterization, special effects, music, and any other or interesting tidbits about the movie. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us tonight's Afterglow info from KF5 PDS.
Well, thank you, Billy. And this is KE5ICX. I should get an Academy Award for these highly accurate plot synopses. So here we go. The Ford Pinto lumbered down the road. Newspaperman and playboy Glenn Howard was ticked about the rental car he was forced to drive. Howard was compelled to drive the back roads and desert terrain rather than suffer the humiliation of being seen in the crappy rent-a-car on the main streets of L.A. Howard barked some orders into the in-dash tape recorder and regular feature before the advent of airbags. In case of a crash, he could say what he was doing at the time of impact, and the auto manufacturer could learn from the mishap as they removed the now lifeless body. Howard continued, "Note to self, fine job at real newspaper or magazine." But before he could press stop, the car careened off the road and crashed into a ditch. And there it sat for 46 years until a pair of highway patrol types showed up wearing gas masks and overalls. Join us for the episode from the popular 1970s long-form TV series, The Name of the Game, directed by 24-year-old Steven Spielberg, called LA 2017 from 1971, tonight at 10:30 p.m. If you really have an urge to watch it, then who doesn't? It's a good, you can watch it on YouTube. Just look for Steven Spielberg, Name of the Game, LA 2017, and you'll find it there in all its glory. Back to net control, KE5ICX.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. And you can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. All right, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So at this time, I'll call out to see if there's anyone on frequency that would like to give us information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. If so, please come now with your call sign.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha.
5JHA, Chaz, good evening. What information can you give us about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas?
Why, thank you, Dr. Chair. It was great seeing you today. So yesterday, we had a meeting of the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. It was an open forum about questions from members, 2 members, 4 members. Yeah, it was interesting. We learned all sorts of different things. So that was a great time. Shoot, I had a write-up that I wrote down about the speaker for next month, and I don't have it with me. Oh, well. But that should be posted online sometime soon at texasastro.org. Now, TAS, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, has already resumed having public star parties on the first and second Saturdays of each month. So the Cedar Hill Star Party and the Frisco Star Parties have already resumed having public observing sessions. Go to the website, texasastro.org, look on the calendar, and you can find out the information of where to go and when to look through telescopes. The other 2, the Dallas and the Garland star parties have not resumed yet, but they probably will soon. The Texas Astronomical Society is planning on having their first in-person meeting at their September meeting, so that should be really good. All right, this is KF5JJ. Back to Dr. Chair.
Great. Thank you very much, Chaz. And it was great seeing you at noonday today. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Bill, N5BB. The net is yours.
Very good. Thank you, Billy. Good to see you today. This is N5BB. The National Space Society is back to in-person meetings. Our next meeting is going to be the second Sunday afternoon of August. That'll be Sunday, August the 8th, starting at 3:30 p.m. The location is Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving, southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road. This is across the street from Irving Mall. I don't yet know what the subject of the meeting is going to be. So far, the National Space Society local chapter, the North Texas chapter, is trying to get some activities set up. So far, the only one was Moon Day, which was today, which was very successful. We got several new members there, including a person that comes to Skynet all the time. I think that's it. I'm the membership director of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. If you have any interest in joining National Space Society, you can contact me, Bill, N5BB at ARRL.net. That's November 5 Bravo Bravo at ARRL.net. Thank you, Billy, N5BB.
Thanks, Bill, and it was great seeing you at Moon Day as well. I just want to also give out a little advertising blurb. The National Space Society of North Texas has an active Facebook page. Just type in National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access. You'll receive meeting reminders and club activities. All right, next up is discussion topic of the evening. So for tonight's topic, I've chosen NASA's sounding rocket program. So tonight I'm just going to give you an overview about sounding rockets. The article can be found on the nasa.gov website. For over 40 years, the sounding rocket program has provided critical scientific, technical, and educational contributions to the nation's space program and is one of the most versatile and cost-effective flight programs at NASA. Sounding rockets carry scientific instruments into space along a parabolic trajectory. Their overall time in space is brief, typically 5 to 20 minutes, and at lower vehicle speeds for a well-placed scientific experiment. The short time and low vehicle speeds are more than adequate. In some cases, they are ideal to carry out successful scientific experiments. Furthermore, important regions of space that are too low for satellites, and thus sounding rockets provide the only platforms that can carry out measurements in these regions. The cost factor makes sounding rockets an attractive alternative as they do not need expensive boosters or extended telemetry and tracking coverage since they never go into orbit. So, mission costs are substantially less than those required for orbiter missions. The sounding rocket program takes advantage of a high degree of commonality, and in many cases, only the experiment provided by the scientist is changed. In some cases, such as almost all astronomy, planetary, solar, and microgravity missions, the payloads are recovered, which means the costs of the experiment and subsystems are spread out over many missions. Not only are sounding rocket missions carried out at very low cost, but also the payload can be developed in a very short time frame, sometimes as quickly as 3 months. This rapid response enables scientists to react quickly to the new phenomena, such as observing the Shoemaker-Levy comet impact to Jupiter, and to incorporate the latest, most up-to-date technology in their experiments. Another interesting website to look at is the Wallops Flight Facility, which is on Wallops Island. This is at wff.nasa.gov, and they have a nice website that has Sounding Rockets Program Office, information on various sounding rocket missions. For instance, on July 11, 2021, there's a sounding rocket, Dynamo 2. GE Black Branch 9 was launched from Wallops Island, Virginia on July 11, 2021. The dynamos went in electric fields in the daytime lower ionosphere missions, Dynamo 2, are newly designed identical payloads. Each payload includes a GSFC main payload with a deploying mainer sphere and a UNH sub-payload. The objective of the Dynamo 2 missions is to measure DC electric fields, plasma density, currents, neutral winds, neutral density and temperature, and ion mass distributions. The missions are supported with NASA's ICON satellite measurements and Wallops ground-based measurements from the GSFC magnetometer, the vertical incidence pulsed ionospheric radar, or VIPIR, VIPIR, and the new digital ionosonde. So the 36.357 payload on this rocket was launched into disturbed conditions. So this is a very interesting website. Again, it's sites.wff.nasa.gov. So there's just a little overview, a quick overview of the sounding rocket program at NASA and insight into one of the most recent missions that was launched from Wallops Island. So I hope you enjoyed that brief introduction to NASA's sounding rocket program. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, at this time, I'm going to turn the Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll do a brief check-in round and see if we have anybody that would like to check in, and then you have my permission to turn the net over to Chaz for What's Up. So to KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy, and this is KE5ICX. My name's Tom. I'm alternate net control this evening, and I'm doing check-in. So if you would like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Please come now.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom in Irving.
That's it? Well, that's fine. This is my evil twin, Tom, N5HYP over in Irving. It was good to see you. And now I hear my evil twin on tonight's net. And you can tell the difference between Tom and I because Tom has the goatee. Grow one, Tom. You know. Never mind. I'll have to explain it someday. Okay, we're going to go to Chaz. Chaz. Yeah, Chaz. KF5JK. I think that's him. I don't know. I had a moment there because I was thinking of goatees. Okay, Chaz, go ahead. You are, we're up for What's Up, I guess. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
So if you describe me with a goatee, no, I have a full beard and mustache, so maybe that'll make you stumble more because that's more, I don't know. Oh, by the way, the reason why I'm calling our net control, KF5PDS, Billy, I'm calling her Dr. Chair because she's now the chair. You know, she has a PhD, so she's the chair of her department now. Isn't that cool? So I'm going to call her Dr. Chair. Okay, yeah, this is Chaz, KF5JH. My degree's in astrophysics. I'm the astrophysics lab manager at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up. That's slide number 1, please, slide master. Oh, there I am. I'm looking on the video version, yet delayed by about, 60 seconds. Slide number 2, please. Now, what we were talking about on Skynet a year ago, do you remember? Comet Neowise. Do you remember that? I tried to see Comet in the morning sky and then in the evening sky and then from DFW anywhere, but I couldn't. But when I went out to West Texas, it was easy to see with just your 2 eyes. Did you know in the past, one of the myths about comets was that they were considered to be omens, signs of evil things or evil events. Neowise was discovered on March 27th, 2020. Just about a week after the entire country, actually the entire world, went on lockdown from COVID-19. Interesting timing. I'm just saying. The pictures of new ice that you see on the video version of Skynet are ones that I took while I was in West Texas a year ago. It's estimated that the next time that NEOWISE visits the inner solar system will be approximately 6,700 years from now. I'll keep you updated with specifics once we get closer to that date. Slide number, please. 3, please, slide master. On yesterday, July the 23rd, the moon was at its full phase. And on July the 31st, the moon will be at its third quarter. On August the 2nd, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth. On August the 8th, the moon will be at its new phase. On August the 15th, the moon will be at its first quarter phase. On August 17th, the moon will be at its perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth. You know, I do this every week, but today is significant. Well, it's significant because this is Moon Day, yeah. Slide number 4, please. Tonight, we should be able to see on July the 24th, around the time that Skynet ends, you can look for the moon, Jupiter, and Saturn low in the southeastern sky. Well, actually, it's in the east-southeastern sky. It will be a conjunction. The moon will be just about halfway between the two planets, just a little bit lower than that midpoint. So it'll be a great thing to look at in about an hour from now. Slide number 5, please. On the night of July the 29th and 30th, there won't be just one meteor shower, nor 2 meteor showers, but actually 3 meteor showers that peak. That's right, 3 meteor showers that peak on the same night. The Alpha Capricornids will produce about a handful of meteors in an hour of watching the sky. The Southern Delta Aquariid meteor shower are predicted to produce around between a dozen and 2 dozen meteors per hour of watching. And the July Gamma Draconids will produce as many as 100 meteors per hour of observing. So how do you tell which meteor is connected with which meteor shower? Well, you trace the trail of the meteor backwards to see what constellation that the meteor seems to have originated from. But since the moon is waning gibbous phase on this night, it will prevent us from seeing very many of these meteors this year. And remember, between midnight and dawn, that's when the best time is looking for the meteors, because that's the side of the Earth that the Earth is running into the meteors. Slide number 6, please. Beginning on August the 8th, the moon actually encounters a series of solar system objects. So on the evening of August the 8th, the crescent moon will be beside the planet Mercury in the low western evening sky. I'd be looking around 8:30. It's going to be very strong twilight, but it might be worth it. Get your binoculars out. Slide number 7, please. On August the 9th, just the very next day, the moon will continue its encounter with solar system objects when it is in conjunction with the planet Mars, again low in the western evening sky around 8:30. And the very next night after that, slide number 8, on August the 10th, the moon will encounter its third solar system object in the sky, the planet Venus. And again, this conjunction takes place low in the western evening sky around 8:30. This will be easier because it will be higher in the sky, and Venus is much brighter. It should be interesting seeing the moon and Venus next to each other. Slide number 9, please. Of course, on the night of August 11th, 12th will be the peak night for the Perseid meteor shower. This annual meteor shower is one of the major meteor showers of the year. It can be seen mainly from the northern hemisphere, but most of the Earth's population being in the northern hemisphere, and with it being the warm summertime for the northern hemisphere, it has become the most famous and probably the most widely observed meteor shower throughout the year. If you can get far away from the city lights, and it's not hazy like it was today, then you could see up to 110 meteors per hour of watching. The very best time, again, to observe meteors is the hour before morning twilight, because this is the side of the Earth, again, that's running into the stream of particles left behind by the comet Swift-Tuttle. That's the originator of the particles that result in the Perseid meteor shower. Years ago, I lived in Seattle, and I drove up into the Cascade Mountains into a logging road to watch the Perseid meteor shower. The hour just before dawn, I actually observed 90 meteors an hour. Yes, which is about an average of about 1 meteor every 45 seconds. That was a lot of fun. Slide number 10, please. On the early evening of August the 18th, the planets Mars and Mercury will be very close in conjunction. Do you remember way back in December 2020? We weren't doing anything. I was just getting over COVID when it was going on. When Jupiter and Saturn were close together in conjunction, well, Mars and Mercury on August the 18th will be just as close, about 1/10 of a degree apart. And you'll probably need binoculars on a very clear, low western horizon because, again, it's going to be in strong twilight. August the 18th, Mars and Mercury. It'll be interesting to see. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide number 11, please, sir. So the next Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting will be on Friday, August the 27th at 7:30 p.m. It will be a Zoom meeting, and members will receive a link to the Zoom meeting about a week or so ahead of time. And we are planning on having our first face-to-face meeting in September. And we're already resuming those public observing sessions for Frisco and also for Cedar Hill already. And you can go to texasastro.org to get update information about and details about the meetings and public observing sessions. You do know why we have Skynet on Saturday nights, because the TASS public observing nights are on Saturday nights. So we can get maybe some reports from those public observing sessions. I'm going to have to be a vagabond some night and show up at a public observing session and maybe log in through Echolink, and my HT might make it out to the repeater. All right, slide number 12, please. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information, or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question, or somebody else here on the net might know. So come now with your call sign if you have a question.
KG5 APL.
Go ahead, please. What is your question?
Hey, yeah. Thanks, everyone. This is KG5APL Patrick. Yeah, so I finally broke down and joined the Texas Astronomical Society. So thank you all for plugging it forever, and especially thank you to Mr. Luis Santana for helping me with the membership glitches I had. I've been going back and listening to some of the past meetings, and they've been great. One that I particularly enjoyed was one by Stephen talking about binoculars. And he mentioned something that I had honestly never heard about before. And this was the thing, asterisms. And he mentioned one called Campbell's Cascade. So I guess I was reading up on learning about them a little bit more. It sounds like they're just small constellations that you can't really see with the naked eye, but they're out there and interesting to observe. So I kind of wanted to maybe speak to that. Do you have any input on more on asterisms? What are they? And then also, besides Campbell's Cascade, are there any other well-known ones? But then also kind of a follow-up to that is I finally did take the plunge, and I'm now the proud owner of some binoculars. And so my question is really to anyone out there is what are some of y'all's favorite viewing objects out there for binoculars? Not necessarily telescopes, but binoculars specifically. Okay, that's it. Y'all should join the Texas Astronomical Society. KG5APL, back to you.
Patrick, congratulations on your binoculars, and thanks for joining the TASS meetings and membership. It's going to be fun, and yes, if you are a member, there's a separate member section, and you can go back and look at the last many meetings. We recorded them, and in fact, the September meeting, it's going to be face-to-face. We're going to try to go ahead and Zoom that one as well, in case people can't make it to that meeting. And the plan is, I think, to record that one as well. So, okay, asterisms. An asterism is just a group of stars that's not a constellation, but it could be bigger than a constellation, or it could be just a part of it, or it could be so tiny you need to look at it through a telescope, not even a pair of binoculars. There's a group that astronomy clubs join. It's called the Astronomical League, and they have a bunch of observing programs, over 70 of them. I'll talk more about that when we get to the constellation of the week. But one of those programs is called the Asterism Club, and that's really kind of cool because you can get a pin and a certificate for observing these different things, like Campbell's Cascade. A couple of very famous asterisms is the Big Dipper. Big Dipper is really part of the constellation of Ursa Major. There's other ones. There's many other ones. We just talked about a couple of them in the club meeting last night. There's one that's called a miniature Cassiopeia. That's in the constellation of Draco, but you need to have a telescope to be able to see that one. But binoculars, oh, you're going to see all sorts of things with binoculars. That I use, I think it's out of print, but maybe you can buy it online, used, called Astronomy with Binoculars by James Murden. But there's some more interesting books that are much more recent that you might want to be able to go out and take a look. That's what I would suggest. Great job getting binoculars. That's what I always recommend. I hope they were somewhere around 7x50s or 10x50 binoculars. That would be a good starting point for binoculars. So, Patrick, did I answer your question?
It's KG5APL. Yeah, yes, sir. I do appreciate that. It's definitely given some good points. I will be looking up the book. Actually, could you spell the name of that author of the book you recommended? But other than that, I think I'm good. KG5APL, back to you.
Yeah, James Murden, I think it's M-U-I-R, I think it's D-A-N, it could be D-E-N. But here's what you might want to do. As a member of TAS, we have a library of books that you can actually borrow. You don't even have to buy them. And we have the librarian online right now. I see her on Echolink. Her name's Kelly. So you can go through that, and she can, I guess, what Kelly, do you ship those things out to the members? K5KTX, can you come back to us and let us know about how you borrow a book when you're a TAS member?
Sure, this is K5KTX. I am the librarian for TAS, and you can get my email address from the website, I believe, or certainly from the Spectrum newsletter. Just send me an email, and I have been since the pandemic started. I've been shipping books to people, and then they can just ship them back when they're finished. And when we resume in-person meetings, and I can always probably, if I'm at the meeting, which I should be in most of them, I can bring the book to the meeting and give it to you there as well. And there is, right now, there is a list. It's a little bit outdated. We've acquired quite a few more books, but we do have a list in the members-only area. There's a section there that has a library, and there's a list by author, one by subject, one by title, and you can scroll through those. I am working on a project right now to get all of our books uploaded to an app where you can actually get a lot more details about the book, because right now it's just the list is in a spreadsheet. So hopefully sometime, it's really awful having a full-time job. If I can get all 750 some odd titles that we have uploaded into this app, then everyone can download the app and see what we have available, and they can request a checkout of those books. So hopefully that answers you. Oh, and by the way, another great asterism is the coat hanger. That's one of my favorite binocular asterisms is the coat hanger. That's it. This is K5KTX.
Thank you so much, Kelly. By the way, the coat hanger has a designation of CR399, if I remember correctly. And if you, Patrick, or if anybody's on the Echolink chat, let's see now. It was Joe put in James Murden right there in the chat. So, okay. I hope that satisfies a lot of people with all sorts of things. Yeah, there's several books in the library, the TAS library, about binocular observing. So That's a great place to start. And yeah, the coat hanger is a great asterism to look at. Okay, I need to move on. So, as the moon waned at the beginning of July, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next week, well, actually, I'm doing another segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5 JJ Chaz. Back to our net control. That would be Dr. Chair KF5 PDS. Billy.
Thank you very much, Chaz, and congrats, Patrick, on joining TAS. I wanted to also make you aware, the Astronomical League was mentioned. If you go to astroleague.org and look up observing programs, they have several binocular observing programs. Here's just a few: binocular double star observing program, binocular Messier observing program, and binocular variable star observing program. I also noticed they have an advanced binocular program as well, advanced binocular double star observing program, and they even have one. If you get down to the southern hemisphere, they've got a southern skies binocular observing program. So there's lots of observing fun and things that you can accomplish by observing with binoculars. So again, congrats on your new membership, and enjoy the searching with binoculars. All right, and thank you very much, Chaz, for your report, and we'll hear from you again soon. This is KF5 PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of ARC Skynet. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. So this time I'll turn the net over to Brenda, WD5OZL. The net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. This is WD5OZL. First, in space exploration news, scientists want to build a new, very different Arecibo telescope to replace fallen Icon Arecibo Observatory's massive radio dish, which was many things to many people. Pulsar finder, broadcaster to aliens, asteroid mapper, Bonneville's hidden satellite dish, Puerto Rican icon, birthplace of future scientists. Until 7 months ago, that is, when gravity got the best of an engineering marvel that had endured everything thrown in its way for decades, and the entire platform crashed down. Since that fateful day, plenty of eyes have turned to analyzing what went wrong, while many hands have gotten to work, sorting through and cleaning up the wreckage. And the brains have been doing what brains do, dreaming of what science might come next for the site. For one group of scientists, with its deep ties to Arecibo, that meant dreaming up an entirely new type of telescope, one that will fill the gap left by the iconic instrument and then go much further. We'll see. Next, the James Webb Space Telescope recently cleared 3 milestones. This new image, fresh from the Northrop Grumman clean room, shows the NASA Webb nearly fully packed up into the same formation it will have for launch. Only a few tests remain before team transitions into shipment operations. Space-related birthdays. John Glenn, July 18th, 1921. He flew on the Mercury Atlas 6, and then later on, the STS-95. He was the first American to orbit the Earth. Elliot C., July 23rd, 1927. No missions. He was part of the second astronaut group and would have flown on Gemini 9. He died in a plane crash in 1966. Josh A. Casada, July 18th, 1973, was on the Boeing Starliner 1. Scott D. Tingle, July 19th, 1965, Soyuz MS-09. And Roy D. Bridges, Jr., July 19th, 1943, STS-51F. This week in space history, 55 years ago, Gemini X soars to new heights. The primary goals of Project Gemini include proving the techniques required for the Apollo program to fulfill President John F. Kennedy's goal of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth before the end of the 60s. Paramount among those techniques was rendezvous and docking, required to implement the lunar orbit rendezvous method NASA chose for the moon landing missions. Additional goals of Gemini include proving that astronauts could work outside their spacecraft during spacewalks and ensuring that spacecraft and astronauts could for at least 8 days, then consider the minimum time for a round-trip mission to the moon. The first 7 Gemini missions in 1965 and early 66 demonstrated the spacecraft's spaceworthiness, the feasibility of spacewalking, extended flight durations to 14 days, and demonstrated space rendezvous and docking techniques. The goals of the 3-day Gemini 10 mission included docking with one target vehicle, conducting a rendezvous with the second target, and performing 2 And 45 years ago, Viking 1 touches down on Mars. In the summer of 1976, a pair of orbiter and lander spacecraft called Viking arrived at Mars. After first entering orbit, Viking 1's lander touched down on the red planet on July 20th. It became the first U.S. spacecraft to land on another planet. Its twin, Viking 2, arrived a few weeks later. The 2 orbiters and landers operated well beyond their expected 90 days, returning tens of thousands of photographs and scientific data that dramatically increased our knowledge of Mars, its atmosphere, its surface, and its 2 moons. They revealed the planet to have been geologically active during its history, with evidence of flowing water, liquid, possibly water, in the past. The lander's biology experiments produced no definitive evidence for life on the surface. All right, back to net. This is WB5OZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. All right, next up, we return to Chaz for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So I'll back over to Chaz, KF5JHA. The net is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Chair. Yes, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Thus, there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Serpens, the snake. Quoting from Vernon's Celestial Handbook, Serpens is the snake which is a symbol of the divine healer, I forget how to pronounce his name, who became the god of medicine. You've seen the snake that's the symbol for medicine, haven't you? Ancient Greek mythology. And the one that appears in the sky, the snake bearer, that's the one called Ophiuchus, he's bearing the snake. Serpens is the only star group completely divided into 2 portions that don't connect. Serpens Claude is the head to the west of Ophiuchus, that's the snake handler, and Serpens Clauda, I guess that's how you pronounce it, is to the east, that's the tail of the snake. Okay, slide number 15. All of you have been waiting for this, I know. It's just amazing what you can find on the internet with snake jokes. Okay, here we go. Take a deep breath. You can boo and hiss if you want. I don't know if I can hear it, but you can boo and hiss if you like. What is a snake's favorite school subject? History, of course. What do you call a snake that's exactly 3.14 feet long? Oh, come on, this is easy. And, you know, I've got a couple of these snake jokes that is good for Billy because she's, you know, a doctorate of mathematics. So what do you call a snake that's exactly 3.14 feet long? A python. Yeah, very good. JJ got it. Kelly got it on the Echo Link. Very good. Thank you very much. Why can't you play jokes on snakes? Okay, somebody can type this in on Echo Link if you want. Why can you not play jokes on snakes? I'm waiting. I just want to see if somebody answers it on Echo Link. No? Okay. Because you can never pull their legs. Okay, that was funny. What do you call a snake without clothes on? Naked. Okay, that might have been a stretch. What do you call a hypothetical situation where a snake chases an Asian from point A to point B? Again, this was another math answer. A Python-Korean theorem. Say it really fast. You'll get it. And the sixth one, which is usually the last one, why can't snakes rob a bank? Because they're unarmed. And tonight I found another one I had to use. This is a bonus. What snake do you use to clean your car windows? A windshield viper. Slide number 16, please. Alpha Serpens, the brightest star, usually in the constellation is Alpha. The second brightest is Beta, then Gamma, and Delta, and Epsilon. They go through the Greek alphabet. Usually that's that way, but sometimes they're mixed up. So Alpha Serpens, or Unicalaha, I don't know how to pronounce it, but that means serpent's neck. This marks the star's position, location in serpents, in its neck. The star is an optical triple star with two faint visual companions. In an 8-inch telescope, the primary star looks a yellow-white in color. Delta Serpens, another double star, in an 8-inch telescope at 126 power, splits very nicely when seeing settles down. The primary looks white, while the secondary looks a yellow-white. But it might be an allusion to the brightness difference between those two stars. Slide number 17, please. M5 is the bright star cluster. When you think of globular clusters, you often think of M13 and Hercules. M13 is certainly better known than M5, but Walter Scott Houston pointed out an interesting paradox in his Deep Sky Wonders column. It may have come as a surprise to learn that M5 is actually listed as being a tenth of a magnitude brighter in the Sky Catalog 2000 than M13. Wow, both M13 and M5 are of similar size too. So in fact, M5 is the brightest globular star cluster in the northern hemisphere in the sky, and indeed it surpasses only two other southern globular clusters, 47 Tucan and the Omega Centaur. M5 is visible to the naked eye under dark sky conditions. In an 8-inch telescope, M5 is nicely framed and resolves well at 126 power. Interesting fact about M5. Slide number 18, please. Slide number 18 is M16, is also known as the Eagle Nebula or the Star Queen Nebula. In spite of its popular name of the Eagle Nebula, M16 is not just a nebula. It also includes an associated open cluster of stars. When you look at M16 in a telescope, the cluster is what you normally see first. The nebula itself is much harder to make out in smaller telescopes. With larger telescopes, it's easy to do. And this is KF5, JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide number 19, please. there are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Serpens, the snake. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, I believe, around 73 different observing programs. We talked about several of them being binocular programs a little bit ago, and most of these observing programs have around 100 objects. If you just observe 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide number 20, please. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Serpens, the Snake. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I've used. I borrow, and I steal for tonight and every night. I also at times use the website, constellation-guide.com for information. And the next time, I'm going to take a look at Ophiuchus, the snake handler. Okay, so this is KF5, JHA, sending it back to our net control because I've got a scat.
Thank you very much, Jazz. This is KF5's PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next is space launches for this week. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX. The net is yours.
Well, thank you, Miss Billy, and this is KE5ICX, and yes, that was a reference to Tom Stafford. We had a conversation about Apollo 10. Look it up. Here we go. Space launches for this week. July, we have a Falcon 9 Starlink. This is different. Well, not really. Let's see. SLC-4E Vandenberg Space Force Base. Yes, it's Space Force Base in California. Falcon 9, a rocket, will launch the first dedicated mission with Starlink Internet satellites from Vandenberg Air Force Base, Space Force Base. This mission will deploy an unspecified number of Starlink satellites into high inclination orbit. Of course, the whole point of this thing is to completely do Internet capability from pole to pole, from equatorial to everywhere. So they have to fly polar trajectories over, the Pacific, so they're headed there. On July 27th, we have an actual launch plan. This one's Ariane Space will use an Ariane 5 ECA rocket designated Victor Alpha 254 to launch the Star 1 D2 and Eutelsat quantum communication satellite owned by the Brazilian operator Embratel. Star 1 and Star 1 D2 was built by, there's a lot of dense information here, Max-R, which will deliver telecommunications, direct-to-home television services, and fast broadband to customers in South America, Mexico, Central America, and parts of the Atlantic Ocean. Eutelsat Quantum Satellite was built by SSTL and Airbus Defense and Space under the auspices of a public-private research and development project between the European Space Agency, ESA, Eutelsat, and Airbus. Designed for coverage over the Middle East and North Africa, the software-defined satellite can be reprogrammed for new communications missions in orbit. Now, that's a new thing. That's pretty cool. On July 30th, we have a launch from SLC-41, Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, Florida. United Space Launch Atlas V, designated AV-082, will launch Boeing's CST-100 Starliner I Won't Crash Into Anything spacecraft on its second unpiloted I Will Not Crash Into Anything test flight to the International Space Station. They have 5-mile-an-hour bumper. Anyway, this mission was added after Boeing's decision to refly Starliner's orbital flight test before proceeding with the crew flight test. The rocket will fly in a vehicle configuration with 2 solid rocket boosters and the dual-engine Centaur upper stage. I think that's the AJ-10s times 2. This is delayed from third quarter of this year. Third quarter of this year? It must have been last year. Never mind. I don't know. Calendar year, who knows what they use. On August 2nd, we have a launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. A Russian Soyuz rocket will launch 34 satellites into orbit for OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low latency broadband communications. Now everybody together, here we go. The configuration of the rocket is, say it together, Soyuz 2.1B rocket will use, everybody together, the Fregat, and don't forget it, the Fregat upper stage. Moving into August, we have from Wallops Island, Virginia, which for some of the sounding rockets are launched from Pad to 0A, Northrop Grumman Antares rocket will launch the 17th Cygnus cargo freighter on the 16th operational cargo delivery flight to the International Space Station. The mission is known as NG-16. The rocket will fly the Antares 230 plus configuration with two RD-181 first stage rockets in the Castor 30XL second stage. Very reliable, by the way. In mid-August, we've got Vega, Pleiades Neo 4. This will launch from ZLV. That's Kourou, French Guiana, and Arianespace Vega rocket, designated VV-19, will launch the Pleiades Neo 4 Earth observation satellite for Airbus. The Neo 4 is the second of 4 Pleiades Neo high-resolution Earth observation satellites built, owned and operated by Airbus. The Vega rocket will also launch multiple rideshare payloads. Hopefully there's a amateur satellite on board. We'll find out. And that's it. Well, I'm not done yet. Hold on. And this is KE5ICX. Better do that because I don't want to get in trouble. Okay, from the old moon port, we got from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch a Dragon 2 spacecraft on its third cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. The flight is the 23rd mission by SpaceX conducted under the Commercial Resupply Services, or CRS, contract with NASA. On August 26th, we got a Soyuz launch. This is from Bakhmir Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. A Russian Soyuz rocket will launch 34 satellites into orbit for OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low latency broadband communications. Everybody to the Soyuz 2.1B rocket will use the, Fregat upper stage. And that's it from me. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. There's a lot going on. Next up is recent astronomical discoveries. So at this time, I'll return the net to Brenda, WB5OZL. You'll tell us about recent astronomical discoveries.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB5OZL. Well, this article is entitled Martian Global Dust Storm Ended Winter Early in the South. A dust storm that engulfed Mars in 2018 destroyed a vortex of cold air around the planet's south pole and brought an early spring to the hemisphere. By contrast, the storm caused only minor distortions to the polar vortex in the northern hemisphere and no dramatic seasonal changes. Dr. Paul Streeter of the Open University's Faculty of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics will present the work today, July 23rd, that was yesterday, at the virtual National Astronomy meeting, NAM 2021. Since the dust storms combined and spread to form an impenetrable blanket of dust that hid almost the entire planet's surface. The global dust storm, which coincided with Mars equinox and lasted until mid-September, proved fatal to NASA's solar-powered Opportunity rover. Aw, I remember that. Streeter and colleagues from the Open University NASA and the Russian Academy of Sciences examined the effects of the event on the Martian atmosphere by combining data from a Mars global climate model with the observations from the European Space Agency, Roscosmos, ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, and NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter missions. Dr. Streeter said this was a perfect opportunity to investigate how global dust storms impact the atmosphere at the Martian poles, which are surrounded by powerful jets of wind in winter. Since the last global storm of 2017, several new missions and instruments have arrived in Mars orbit, so the 2018 event was the most observed to date. Previous research has shown that high levels of dust in the atmosphere can have significant effects on polar temperatures and winds. The vortices at the winter poles also affect temperatures with the transport of air, dust, water, and chemicals, so their disruption could mean substantial changes in the Martian atmosphere. The team found that the 2018 storm had profoundly different effects in each hemisphere. At the South Pole, where the vortex was almost destroyed, temperatures rose and wind speeds fell dramatically. While the vortex may have already been starting to decay due to the onset of spring, the dust storm appears to have had a decisive effect in ending winter early. On the northern polar vortex, by contrast, it remained stable and the onset of autumn followed its usual pattern. However, the normally elliptical northern vortex has changed by the storm to become more symmetrical. The researchers link this to the high dust content in the atmosphere suppressing the atmospheric waves caused by the extreme topography in the northern hemisphere, which has volcanoes over twice as tall as Mount Everest and craters as deep as terrestrial mountains. Dr. Streeter added, global dust storms at equinox may enhance transport to the southern pole due to the diminished vortex, while the more robust northern vortex continues to act as an effective barrier. If this pattern for global dust storms holds over the course of thousands of years that Mars maintains this particular axial tilt, it has implications for how dust is deposited at the north and south poles and our understanding of the planet's climate history. This is from ScienceDaily.com. That is it. Back to net. WB5OZO.
Thank you very much, Brenda. All right, at this time, I'm going to return the net to Tom, KE5ICX. If you'll do a quick check-in round and see if there's anybody on frequency that needs to check in. Oh, and also wanted to check to make sure that you got Tyler's check-in on Echolink. And then if you'll go ahead and do, after a quick check-in round, do satellite passages over the next couple of days. So to KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
All right, thank you, Miss Billy. I do have Tyler checked in, KG5DIM at slot 22. I'll take additional check-ins now. If you'd like to join Skynet this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you are transmitting from.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Oh man, it's so light this evening. I think it has to do with the Olympics. But I got KB9SOK, Sean, he's out there. Sean, you always have a great signal from Fort Worth. I don't know how you do it, but hopefully everybody can still watch their TVs over in Fort Worth. Who knows? That's an old joke. At any rate, okay. Let's see. We have recent satellite passages. I hope I was paying attention because I think that's what I was supposed to do next. Miss Billy, am I supposed to do that next? Because I think I was busy checking Echolink and everything. Should I continue with that?
Yeah, I had down here that you could cover the visible satellite passages. Do you not have anything? If not, I'll just do a quick blurb for the website. Just let me know what you've got. KFI PDF.
All right, I assumed it was, but I wasn't sure because I was distracted. There's like 10,000 screens over here. But thank you. I'll go ahead and do that exactly. The information we got for visible satellite passages comes from heavensabove.com. Go there and you'll find this information. Put in your longitude and latitude, and you too can find the visible satellites that are available. And as a ham radio operator, if you are into AMSAT, and I know Tom is, who my evil twin with the goatee, he's very much into satellite stuff. I don't know if he wants to see them in orbit or make them laser blast them, but he's pretty good at the satellite stuff. He can target them and find them and actually download information and audio and all of that. So you can use it for that, for amateur radio on 2 meter and 440. All right, enough of that. Let me talk about what we got going here. We have the ISS passes. I've got one. That's all I got. But there's more. You can get lower altitudes, but or lower azimuth in the sky. But we've got, I hope I did that right, July 31st minus 2.9 magnitude, so it should be very bright. At 22:26 in the evening, that's 10:26 our time, it will reach its highest point at 46 degrees at 22:29, and it will fall into shadow about the same time, actually the same time, 22:29 at its highest point. Not much on International Space Station, though you can get some of the really low passes and still see them. In fact, pilots very often mistake the International Space Station as another aircraft out there. So there's almost every day one of those low passes, which you should be able to see. The X-37B, which is the what do you call it? The winged spacecraft, a super seeker from U.S. Space Force. There is a pass on, let's see, July 29th. That is a very good pass. Let me get the info again because I had to double check it. The 29th, minus 1 point. Oh, wait a minute. X-37B, I'm messing up. Hold on. Please stand by. All right, this is very strange. I must have put a link in that I didn't expect. I've never done this in all the years, but at any rate, I'm going to skip it because we got to move on. Only because somehow or another I put the hot link in for ISS and not for the X-37B. But do check it out. Go to heavensabove.com for additional information. Put in your longitude and latitude. You'll find a lot of really good information there. And they continue to add 3D information as well, so you can see where the satellites and ISS are, including different perspectives, which is pretty darn cool. So something I did wrong tonight on my hot links, so I'm not going to fix it because there's no reason, and it's 11:23. There's more important stuff going on. So I'm going to send it back to Net Control. This is KE5ICX.
Great, thank you very much, Tom. All right, we have just a few minutes left, so I thought I'd throw out a quick Q&A and see if there's anybody on frequency that had any last questions before we close the net. So if you have a question for us, it could be astronomy or space in general, or of general interest to hams, please come now with your call sign.
Yeah, 5 GBT, just checking in.
And KE5ICX.
Heard KF5GBT checking in. Could you name and location, sir?
Yes, it's Chris from Godley, but I'm currently over by Love Field.
Copy that, Chris, out at Love Field. So welcome to the net. Tom, KE5ICX, please come now. Did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I do, Miss Billy. I messed up on the previous segment, so we had the extra time, but so I'm going to put you on the spot. You did a really fascinating discussion about the moon today and observing. Can you tell us about observing, or the just a short version of what you did today? Because I thought that was really fascinating. I guess we got 5 minutes, so if you would like to share that, that would be really cool. Or just summarize what you did. KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom, and I really appreciate you coming to my talk today and to all those who made it to my presentation. Yeah, my presentation today was touring the moon, a excursion across the lunar landscape. I started with naked eye observations of the mare that you could see in craters, and we just named through all the well-known mare and very easy to spot craters. And then we went through the Apollo missions and showed some pictures that were notable from those missions, and also talked about the Chang'e missions to the far side of the moon and showed a panoramic picture of the far side. And then at the end, there were some folks asking questions about how to take pictures, because I used several photos that I had taken myself. And so I gave some tips, and other folks chimed in, the other experienced photographers chimed in with how to do some good lunar and astrophotography. So basically, I just said of how to do lunar photography with my 6-inch Dobsonian telescope and my Kodak EasyShare camera. Basically, it's afocal photography where I just put my telescope on the moon and put my camera up to the eyepiece of the telescope and use the live view on the camera until I get good pictures and take lots of pictures, and then tweak some of them in GIMP, which is like an open source Photoshop, where you can tweak the brightness and contrast, and you can do other things in there too. But with the lunar photography, if you're shooting black and white, usually you just need to adjust briefly the brightness and contrast. And so I shared some of my photos in my presentation and other photos from NASA showing well-known mission photos. So it was a good time had by all, and thank y'all for coming to my talk. So next year we'll probably be doing something different, or I may do the same. Who knows? We'll just have to see what happens. But I'm always happy to present. It's the highlight of my year, and I've been this, I believe, was my 9th year presenting at Moon Day at the Frontiers of Flight Museum at Love Field. So thanks to all who came and enjoyed my talk, and I enjoyed others too. I got to see other presentations, as well as seeing former astronaut Dan Bursch, who talked about his time aboard the International Space Station. So Moon Day is great fun, so if you didn't make it this year, plan to attend next year and go look at the Frontiers of Flight Museum. They had all virtual last year. You should be able to see those, I believe. You might be able to find those under Moon Day 2020. And you can also find virtual events that they did for this year. It was a mixture of in-person and virtual. So enjoy. And Frontiers of Flight Museum is a great museum to attend just for the aviation. They have loads of planes in the hangar and very experienced volunteers. This Tom, KE5ICX, who gives a great tour. And it's a very memorable experience to attend the museum and to attend Moon Day. All right, so I believe we're at the close of our net, so I have 24 check-ins. Is that correct?
You are correct. That's what I have here, KE5ICX.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to double-check my count. So tonight we had 24 hams participating on the air. So
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to net@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5's PDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:30 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, following this net is the Afterglow movie net. 7-3, everyone.
And thank you, Miss Billy, for doing tonight's net, and your presentation was fantastic. This is KE5ICX. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Go powder your noses. We'll come back and we'll be discussing The Name of the Game, which was a very popular television show in the 1971s with a very weird episode, probably the weirdest episode they ever did through the several years that they did the show, called L.A. 2017, directed by 24-year-old Steven Spielberg. It's the future, groovy style, from 1971. If anybody would like to be net control, I will call them out later on, but we'll give you 5 minutes to think about all that. Back in 5, this is KE5ICX.
I like the comment on Echolink that was told to Billy earlier. I think it was JJ. Since Billy is now a chair, if she gets her promotion, does she get a couch? KF5, JJ. Everyone have a great evening.
got 2 minutes. Anybody want to do the net? Anybody want to be net control? Talk about LA 2016? Please come now. I know who you are. I know where you live. Anybody? Anybody at all? This show had Tony Franciosus, Robert Stack, Peter Falk, Robert Wagner, and Robert Culp. Come on. They're actually known actors. You're going to make me do this, aren't you? And then you'll be sorry when you check in and I say, you could have done that. But no, I got to sit here and do the net because nobody cares. I feel bad. Poor me. It's a poor me moment, but that's okay. And I'll give my call sign. I could give a call sign. I'm thinking a bunch. All right, I'm getting stuff. Yes, Brenda would like to do it, but she picked this movie. Well, maybe she didn't because actually it was pretty good. She says, I would do it, but she's smoking her foul mouth and says she can't do it. And now she's mad at me. I see her on chat. She's screaming at me in capital letters. So I'll do the net this evening. She will check in, and everybody else will check in, because actually we had a fairly decent movie this evening. This is KE5ICX. I'll be your net control, I guess. And it's okay. I'm used to working long hours. I am. So, this is tonight's movie. Oh, let me put me on here since we're doing the video thing too, if you're interested. There is a Wikipedia on here. It says LA 2017 is a 1971 episode of the NBC television series The Name of the Game. Now, if you're old like me, you saw this series. It was very popular. I think it was on Friday nights. Sometimes referred to as Los Angeles 80-2017, the name of Philip Wiley's subsequent novel based on his script, or Los Angeles 2017 is a science fiction piece shot for, well, actually it is pretty good sum of money, $375,000. The director, the 24-year-old Steven Spielberg, couldn't drive yet, used camera angles to drive his first movie-length television episode across and remarked in later years that the show opened a lot of doors for me. Probably so, because it was darn good. This is the 16th episode of the third season, and the cast include Barry Sullivan, Edmund O'Brien, and in a brief cameo, Spielberg's friend Joan Crawford. Somehow I missed her. She must have zoomed by in her car. The episode is 76 minutes long, 90 minutes including commercials. The episode has never been released on home video, nor as a standalone film, nor as a part of the series. Presenting the story as a dream was the only way that Wiley's science fiction tale could be fitted into the peculiar format of The Name of the Game, a show about a magazine business set in the present and rotating between Gene Barry, Tony Franciosus, and Robert Stack, and in the third season featuring Peter Falk, Mr. Columbo, but not as Columbo, Robert Wagner, and Robert Culp. You remember him. So, under the plot, they give a very short synopsis, almost as short as mine. In fact, I think it is shorter. The plot. A publisher, Glenn Howard, played by Gene Barry, finds himself suddenly plunged 46 years into the future, pardon me, my voice sounds doggy, into the future only to learn that people of Los Angeles are living underground to escape the pollution. A fascist America is run like a corporation with a number of vice presidents. That sounds familiar. The police department of the subterranean Los Angeles is led and managed by psychiatrists. At the end, Howard wakes up to discover it was all a dream, just like that whole season of, what was it, Dallas. Although there is a chilling final image of dead birds that hint at a troubled future ahead. Now I have to think about this episode. I remember the name of the game, and I do remember this episode quite vividly because it was so different from what they were doing, and we were all starved for science fiction at the time, especially after Star Trek had gone off the air. So having future vision stuff was rather unusual at that time. And it was before Star Wars, and then when Westerns were supplanted by science fiction, this thing came in the middle of that. And Spielberg, of course, was able, at 24 years old, to put out a memorable episode. He later on went on to do Duel with Dennis Weaver, which was quite fascinating, and that one came, 4 years later, I think? So he actually did a pretty good job with this thing. So if you haven't seen it, you should. You can still talk about it. We'll discuss Spielberg stuff along the way, but this is an unsung episode that has not been on television, and in fact, last night was the first time I had seen it since 1971. I thought it was still pretty darn good. And yes, I'm old. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins at this point. If you'd like to join us, you do not have to say, well, I didn't see it, and I feel bad that I didn't see it. In fact, what happens is that everybody is welcome to check in. We talk about plot, we talk about characterization, and then we talk about anything else you want, because that's usually how long it takes. Special effects, music, lighting, sound, the director, whatever you want on the third round. The other part of this is that just because you didn't see it doesn't mean you can't talk about the 1970s and making stuff about the 21st century. That's fine too. And in fact, we encourage it. So along the way, even if you didn't see the movie, it's okay. I'll ask encouraging things like, what did you think about blow-up furniture in the 1970s? I didn't like it, and most people didn't. But there's inspiration for other stuff. So these are the type of things that we can ask and talk about along the way. So, let me go ahead and take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name. If your location, that's fine. Let me know if you saw name of the game, LA 2017. We begin now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving. Yes, I saw this.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Okay, however, I saw the Web X.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo. Sean in Fort Worth, and I'm actually on the east side of Fort Worth. That's probably why I get into the repeater decent. And yes, I see the movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Brenda in DeSoto. Yes, I saw it.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas. Yes, I saw it.
November Tango 5. Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I'm 95% of the way through. Pretty good.
All right, we have some hooks on the line. We got N5BB Bill in Irving. Yes, he saw it. Good seeing you today, by the way. KC5BZW, Jay, near Weatherford. Yes, you saw it. By the way, your signal's a little weak. You may want to do the echo link thing. It was good seeing you. KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth, he saw it. Good. I got you checked in. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda Soto. Yep, she saw it. W5EBB, David Whitten, Cliff Notes. Oh, over in Dallas, yep, he saw it. I'm most interested to hear what he has to say. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. He's almost done, 95% of the way through it. I'm very curious to hear what he has to say about the end of the film and how this all worked out, and whether he had seen the name of the game. It's got a cool theme song, at least. Anyone else want to check in? Let me look over on Echolink. I'm looking. Let me do Echolink. Anybody on Echolink who'd like to check in? There's at least one who might want to check in, so if you want to, maybe two. Tonight's movie is LA 2017 from 1971. Please come now. Okay, I give extra time for Echolink. I'll take any other check-ins at this round. We will, of course, take additional check-ins later on, but anybody else who would like to join us this evening, tonight's Afterglow movie is LA 2017. Spielberg's, if you're a completist, Steven Spielberg's movie from when he was 24 years old in 1971. Anyone else who would like to join us, please come now. All right, I'm going to be a nice guy or an evil guy, depending on how you look at this. I'm going to go in the order of check-ins. So I will start with Bill, N5BB, over in Irving. Bill, you saw LA 2017. What'd you think about it as far as the plot from KE5I6?
Well, very good, Tom. This is N5BB. Well, for a movie made in 1971, I thought this was pretty good. Of course, there's two ways of viewing the whole thing. You can ask, is it reasonable to have yet another movie where the whole thing was a dream? Well, that's a separate consideration. But if you ignore that and treat it as a real sci-fi plot as opposed to a dream, then I think it's reasonable, except there is absolutely no, description of why he went from 2017 back to 1971. Why did he go back 46 years? So if you try to view it as a science fiction thing, I think you're going to fail, because it's just a complete... They didn't even go there. They acted like they were going to go there, but then they didn't, which I found very annoying. So that part of the plot I found annoying. I believe what they did is took an existing story that was already written and then plugged it in here as a as a dream. So my guess is it wasn't originally written as a dream. It was some kind of sci-fi story. And they took off the sci-fi thing and made it a dream sequence. If I just ignore all that, it was okay. Inside BB.
Okay, Bill. Well, I'm trying to remember, and there are flashbulb memories of television back then. This one was a flashbulb memory for me, so because I thought it was kind of interesting as a outlier. All I'll say is this: is that I do remember the episode. It probably showed up as one of those ratings week things. And they decided to go off in this completely different direction and say, well, we're making a movie. And it's the name of the game, so you're going to get something a little different. And it meant, well, never mind. I'll give others a chance to explain. So next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, by the way, it's good seeing you today and hanging out and talking about all things space. Jay, what do you got for us? What do you think about the plot for LA 2017? Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Evening, Calendar Bios and that. Yeah, I forgot to put full power to the radio, so of course it came in a little weak, but now the signal's coming. I don't know. Some sort of testing thing is almost, blocking that. Ham radio stuff. Anyway, so the movie, I liked it for the most part. I kind of mentioned earlier what I didn't like, but the fact that y'all already mentioned that it's a dream. And you know how kind of dream logic kind of goes. So sometimes dreams are just weird in weird ways. So I don't know. It's kind of a little escape for the authors, obviously, to not have to make things consistent here. But the biggest thing that bugged me was I thought I heard them say that about 8,000 people survived in the initial settlement of Los Angeles, New Los Angeles, let's call it that, and then it was like 11,000 today. But then they go in and say, like there's the lady mentions, we lost 500 to underground, what was it? I forgot the term. They weren't mining, but they were finding. I totally forgot the term, but they used working the tunnels. Let's just put it that way. And then, of course, they go into the eugenics with the babies, and it's like, okay, 50% are survive. So it's like they have to have this ridiculous repopulation. I don't know how the women are able to produce this many babies. I don't think it's really even possible unless they got test tube babies, which maybe they were implying some sort of weird thing going on there. I mean, there's a lot going on. So I don't know. It's maybe not entirely impossible in a sci-fi kind of realm, but it still just kind of annoyed me because it wasn't really explained. The story, it was paced pretty well. Except for the lack of explanations and some kind of key points, it kind of moved along well, and I was entertained most of the way. But yeah, that issue just really bugged me. I don't really know that I have anything else to say beyond that, so I'll hand it back to Ned, KG5BZW.
thank you, Jay, and I hadn't thought about the babies and all that, but that's okay because I was busy looking at the Harvest Gold stuff and avocado green, which apparently in the 21st century is a thing. KB9SOK, Sean, you saw the movie, LA 2017. What are your thoughts about the Steven Spielberg masterpiece when he was 24 years old? I think his mom had to drive him onto the set, but your comments on the plot from KE5I6.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Overall, I liked it. I was a little disappointed at the end to find out that it was a dream sequence. I've never been a big fan of that in shows where they've done that. You already mentioned Dallas did that. It's been done in a lot of soap operas, and it's been done on several, sci-fi shows that have been on TV, maybe just for a single episode, typically. Maybe not for a whole season. But, yeah, that was probably one of the things I was kind of really disappointed with. Other than that, I do think it was pretty well done, especially for the time. Now, of course, to start off with, everybody knows it's very dangerous to be recording on your cassette recorder while you're driving. So, that was almost funny. But yeah, really this movie was boiled down to basically, I felt, two different things. Obviously, this was a cautionary tale about the future and about smog and about what we're doing to our world. And we've seen many sci-fi films that have definitely talked about this. And this was obviously the main focus of this. And very clear that's what they were after. The secondary plot that I felt was the big thing here is just how important media is, and how important magazines and papers were, especially back in, years. Now we've got the internet to kind of replace, but still today, media is very important because people do read it and they do believe what they read a lot of times, and it can definitely influence you. So the fact that the movie kept, trying to get him to reopen his paper and basically say what they wanted to say, which is, once again, we know governments do control over the world, what's published and how it's published. So that's not really a far out there concept because, it's even done some in our own country, obviously. They keep certain stories muffled and what have you. So, yeah, I think that was, to me, was the two big things I took from this movie. Was just that was really the point they were trying to make. The only other thing I thought was a little bit, odd was just it felt like to me the movie was kind of rushed at the end. It's like they realized they were running out of time for the episode, and they just kind of wrapped things up quickly. Because I thought it was odd that the underground resistance was so careless by getting caught in the building there at the end. It's like if they'd stayed secret for that long, you think they would have took a lot more precautions. So that part I felt was a little weak in the storyline. Didn't really know why they went there. But and then earlier in the story too, where the psychiatrist was drilling our lead person there, that didn't make a lot of sense either because the government or the BP already knew that he was there and wanted him taken to his office. So I think they could have just skipped that part, other than the fact that they wanted to introduce that. I think to show that's how the police were then, and introduce the interrogation room, which was used later to talk to the doctor friend later on. But all in all, I enjoyed it. I think it was decent, especially for TV. I'll admit I was really young when this was originally out, so I don't remember seeing this. I do vaguely remember the name of the show, but I can't really recall any episodes. But that's all I got. Back to Net Control. This is KB9SOK.
Okay, very good, Sean. Appreciate your comments on that one. And I have to admit, I fell in love with the theme to The Name of the Game by Dave Grusin, which is completely separate from the episode itself because it was an episodic series, but I thought it was really good in the opening sequence and everything. But I'm into superficial television stuff like that, and I thought it was really well done. Okay, next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. She says, Well, let's see if she's there. WB50ZL, are you there? And what did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
This is WB50ZL. I never saw this back in the day, although I was certainly watching lots of TV then. I have no idea why it just escaped my attention totally, because I did like science fiction. I loved all the 70s kitsch, having been around in the era. I had an avocado green refrigerator. It was a big deal. I didn't have anything in Harvest Gold, but I had a lot of 70s looking clothes, and it is an era that you just can't, has never been replicated. It is just weird. So a lot of the TV shows from that era were also strange. It's like, well, we'll just do anything we want to do. Doesn't have to make sense. Or, you know, it's weirder is better, is what they seem to say. And like everybody, I didn't much like the cop-out of, yeah, it was just a dream, because it didn't really resolve anything. I don't know what they could have done otherwise other than just pretend it was all real and he joins their assistance, which maybe it'll work this time. But I enjoyed the movie. Acting was good. Music was excellent. A lot of the cardboard sets were pretty cheesy. All those hallways. That they sure didn't waste any money on those. But you know, it does have that Spielberg stamp on it. All right, I'm going to turn it back. WB50ZL.
Talk about a hot potato. Here, take it back. Okay, well, that's fine, Brenda. I think you have some good comments that I think we can hook on to, but you ran away screaming, had hair on fire. And it was a good movie thing. Okay, let's move on. I did get some notes from that. I'm cool with it. Next up is David, W5EBB. David? All right. Pull out your cliff notes. I know you have comments on this one, and I will furiously write my comments in response to your comments. Please go ahead. Oh, by the way, we're talking about the name of the game from 1971 about the Steven Spielberg, Mr. 24-year-old directorial debut for television called LA 2017, the future, 46 years in the future. Go ahead, David, from KE5I6.
Well, thank you, Tom. Now, like others before this week, I'd never heard of this series, and certainly not this episode, but I thought it was good, incisively edgy, and in its apocalyptic and dystopian themes, similar to THX 1138, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Logan's Run, and they were probably on their way to Soylent Green had it been extended to a 2-hour movie. Now, 1971 was a surprisingly significant year for movies. It was the year that this episode aired. It was also the year of George Lucas's THX 1138 and Spielberg's Duel. 1971 marked the beginning of an era of these two directors whose movies would make an indelible impact on Hollywood and society for many decades. Mostly Steven Spielberg. Their movies provided welcome diversions or even anesthetics to the everyday grind. Now, the plot is very grim and dire in the narrative of how the Earth succumbed to an ecological disaster, resulting in the poisoning of the Earth and famine, forcing an elite class of survivors to move underground to survive. In short, the Earth was slimed by toxic algae. Even global crop dusting couldn't reverse or stop the progression of the poisoning of the Earth's surface and oceans. Now, it was man who caused, in this movie, the environmental catastrophe, but man and science could do nothing to reverse it. Now, there are some who believe that what man does to the environment to cause harm or to correct whatever harm is done to the environment is inconsequential on a global scale, that man's interactions are just a drop in the bucket compared to the strength and momentum of the global environment. The Earth is subject to its own ordinances and cycles that may or may not be able to be significantly affected or corrected by man. And, like man, or like other species, man may someday go extinct, and there's nothing we may be able to do about it. This was the view, for example, of Nobel Prize winner Kary Mullis, the late inventor of the PCR test. And there may be others who believe the Earth, if it is subject to an apocalyptic event, whether it's sudden or over the course of decades, as in this movie, it will not be because of man's disregard and negligence for the environment. It will be because of man's disregard and negligence for disobeying divine laws, evidenced by a society that follows its own rules, motivated by wealth, guided by profits, instead of being motivated by morals, ethics, and guided by divine laws and commandments. W5EBB.
All right, thank you, David. I thought you had other additional comments on it, but very good. I really enjoy your comments and your insightful whatever it is. What do you call that? The narrative. Okay, narrative. Let's see here. Tony, you're last, but certainly not least, and there will be others after you, I'm pretty sure. NT5TM. Tony, your comments on this movie. I'm glad you saw it. What do you think? From KE5I6.
Well, it was interesting. I had to go look this up, that there was another show that my parents were big fans of called St. Elsewhere that was also turned out to be the dream of one of its characters. I hate that cliche. I know I'm one of many millions and billions of people, but it's so stupid and annoying. Yes, I know it's fiction. You don't have to make it a fiction within a fiction. I know it's fiction because I'm watching it on television. It's like I'm watching a stage play and Shakespeare has to come out and say, well, actually, this was King Lear's hallucination. Really, King Lear was the King of Wales. Nothing to do with England at all. It's just needless indirection. That ranted about. It was interesting, and it roped me in. Certainly, this is a great example of the fleetingness of notoriety, because I've never heard of this show. I've never heard of these actors. I've never heard of the people who wrote for it. Steven Spielberg is the only name from this show I recognize in any way at all. Where are they now? The question that every actor dreads most. Apparently it was some show about the exciting lives of magazine publishers, which I'd never thought about before in my life and probably won't ever think of again. But this one episode was pretty neat. It really did get me roped in. It had a little intriguing intro, and then the world building was great as our protagonist learns more and more about this place where he is. And then the plot does get a little rushed. It's like they realized they were running out of film stock. Yes, when it's the Resistance, it's almost like maybe you think of Brazil. He's a rescue, well, the American ending of Brazil. He's suddenly rescued by the Resistance, and what the heck is happening? And then suddenly Resistance is all captured, and then suddenly it was all a dream. So yeah, that was kind of like they ran out of film. But for, roughly 55 or so minutes of this, I was intrigued and really did want to know what was happening next. So the plot did work. And yes, it was, kind of a message thing. The message is still not irrelevant. So the plot was effective to me, even if notoriety is fleeting and I hate the dream cliche. So I'm going to go with the crowd on that one. I sure did enjoy it. NT5TM.
right, thank you, Tony. And I left it in the original order because David came in, and then after that came you. Not to say that everybody else didn't have things to say, but yes, they all did. But I knew you guys would have kind of an introspective, prospective look at that, and I thought that it was just a natural order, so I went ahead and did it because I'm too stupid to understand these movies. Let me go ahead and ask, are there any additional check-ins at this point? There could be some stragglers, some people that were at Moon Day that are listening, and I don't know, want to talk about Moon Day, or the fact that America went underground in 2017 because of a fungus. Maybe you've had a fungus and you've gone underground. I don't know. But we're talking about the movie LA 2017, which was part of a television long series, a long format series called, boy, that sounds terrible, called The Name of the Game, with different rotating people in the lead role, the starring role. So if you'd like to join us this evening, even if you didn't see The Name of the Game or this episode, which I didn't until just a couple of days ago for the first time since, what was it, 1971. You know, when you do time travel, it's really hard. You can't remember all the 4 digits. Please come now. Please come now if you would like to join the conversation. With your call sign, your name, and locations find, and did you see LA 2017? Please come now.
BB, can I make some follow-up comments about the plot?
Darling, not seen the movie. Name is Bill.
All right, I had a double. I've got AI5DY. Bill, he says, yep, he saw the movie. And Bill, you're at the top of the list, so I will allow you, after the other Bill, there's 2 Bills, no waiting, his comments on having seen the movie. So let me give the lady check-in, and then after that, Bill, you're next. So AI5DY. Bill, go ahead. Welcome to the net. Your thoughts on this movie, LA 2017. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I have not seen the movie. Just the first 10 minutes right now. So pretty excited to watch that. I love subjecting my family to science fiction movies, both good and bad. I was 2 years old when this came out, so when I got a little bit older, 4 and 5 years old, I remember watching a science fiction movie with my parents. Earliest memories I have is Logan's Run, and then of course Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, Close Encounters, all those. But anyway, the first movie I remember was the Logan's Run. So I'm excited to go back and watch this one. AI5DY.
All right, Bill, that's fine. It's got a little bit of that vibe. That actually came out later on. So let's do this right. We have a runner. So watch the rest of it. If you have that vibe with Logan's Run, I think you'll find that it is similar, lower budget, if that's possible, but a lower budget, but overall not bad at all. Okay, I'm going to the top of the list, which means Bill, and you're welcome to go ahead and talk about the plot. I know you've have some additional comments, and then after that, go ahead and talk about characterization if you'd like. So N5BB, Bill, go ahead. We're on the second round.
Okay, Tom, this is N5VB. Well, first thing I want to do is respond to Tony, who made some comments about the movie in general, and he said it was some know-nothing actors. I completely disagree. Gene Barry was on all kinds of things. Edmund O'Brien was in decades in movies. Sharon Farrell was on just huge numbers of things in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Just lots and lots of stuff. Michael Gwynn was in a lot of stuff. I mean, these were... and Barry Sullivan was over everything. I'm sure we've seen him probably in some other movies. He was in just lots and lots of movies. So I apologize, Tony, but... Oh, and Louise Latham, she's well-known. These were actually pretty well-known actors, especially on TV. And they made just lots and lots of TV movies back then in the 60s, 70s, 80s, some of them into the 90s. So anyway, that's my disagreement there. Regarding the plot, if I just ignore the dream thing and just play it straight, look at this as a straight sci-fi kind of thing, it doesn't look very sci-fi. In other words, it was supposed to be 46 years in the future. So you'd think some things had changed, right? You'd think something had changed. Did you see big significant changes in the clothing? Not really. They weren't bothered by his clothing. Did you see big significant changes in the computer stuff? Nope. It looked like 1971 computers. Slight telephone thing. He had something on his desk that looked like a picture phone that he banged because it wasn't working right. And they did have the hologram thing. So those are some things that were kind of futuristic. But there's a lot of other things. All these underground scenes, they just filmed them in some underground passageways and buildings where they had all these pipes going through. Nothing futuristic there. It looks like an old building back there, just an existing building back there in the basement. Nothing at all special there. It didn't look like they built it 46 years in the future. Drinking milk was kind of an odd thing because I guess Bigelow had a cow. A little strange there. One thing I guess that was kind of futuristic, just like all the other movies in the 50s, 60s, into the 70s, the science fiction movies, he pushes the button and the door slides horizontally. Oh, these electronic sliding doors, you know, I tell you, they really like that, just like on Star Trek. And then the weird sounds. Remember the sounds in the ceiling? Those weird sounds that she played? That was just weird. The best way of describing that. I didn't follow that very well. So, even though I kind of enjoyed it, there were some problems with the plot from my point of view, even viewed as a science fiction plot. The meat wagon, the ambulance kind of thing, they only used one of them, but early and later, it looked like exactly the same vehicle. It looked like a 1971 ambulance van. That's what they used back there, exactly. The only thing they did to make it look futuristic is they threw a sound on there that sounded like a turbine spinning up when it started up. That's the only thing they did. Everything in the vehicle, the steering, and everything else was 1971. The look of the whole vehicle, the outside was 1971. Everything was 1971. So to me, there were the tiny few futuristic things they tried to throw in there with the one view of the weird phone on the desk and the hologram. was about it, and the weird sound on the vehicle. So to me, that was just really chintzy as far as trying to do the future. Okay, now about the characterization. I was okay. I was a little bothered the way that Dane Bigelow, which I guess was Barry Sullivan, the way that he portrayed Dane Bigelow was, although he seemed to be kind of a low emotion kind of guy, when you really look at what happened, he was a ruthless, horrible guy, and so was the big manager. So, you know, there was, as David said, ZBB said, there was no ethics. They were just completely unethical creatures as far as we could see. And then mixing something with the plot maybe and things, I didn't understand him being sick in one area, and they drove a little bit distance, and suddenly, oh, the oxygen was good. They could take off the gas mask. That made no sense at all to me. You know, it wasn't like they were going up 5,000 feet. They were just driving a couple miles on the road, and they can take their gas mask off. There was oxygen. The other characters, I think, played it reasonable. It wasn't really good acting, but it wasn't horrible. To me, it was kind of middle of the road. In 5BB.
Interesting comments, Bill. Let's see here. Oh, I didn't make my comments about the plot and all of that. The good news is when you're net control, and anybody who's been net control for this particular net, is that you wait until the end, and then you can make superior comments about, that's true, however, and then you can Google stuff and say, well, Francis Ford Coppola did it differently, and it's obvious that you're completely wrong about that particular comment. I'm doing that with the outrageous look with a mustache right now, which I don't have, but, you know, if I did, that's how I would say it. Or use an English accent and make it sound like I know a lot more than I actually do. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in everything that everybody said about the plot and mention a couple of things. First off, the name of the game was a very popular television show. I think it was on Friday nights when I Googled it. And one of the things is that they had these A-list actors. Now, it's true, Tony doesn't know who any of these people are, but it's okay, Tony. I mean, yes, you know famous people and who created great works of art, but Edmund O'Brien, Tony Franciosa wasn't in this, Gene Barry, one of the great actors, one of the great minds in television on Friday nights. You don't understand, but that's okay. Let's see. Getting back to the plot, I finished ranting on Formica, or avocado green something. But the thing about it is that when you're doing a weekly television series, especially in a long format where they're spending tons of money or not, is that your characters can't change. Because next week, something's going to happen. Actually, the characters do change, which was different. They put a different lead character in, but they all work for this massive company making magazines and newspapers. I think it was just magazines. I'm not sure. But anyway, so you can't change the character because we didn't have binge watching back then. Binge watching took months, years, decades to get through. Anybody who watched Dallas knows that. Let me reset. So, in this case, you're talking about a science fiction vibe. We can't take Gene Barry and dump him into the 21st century. He didn't make it anyway, but so we gotta make him go back to where he was, and everything's the same. Much like Star Trek did in the 60s. Originally, it is that you just simply, at the end of the episode, everything changes. Everything goes back. You know, Captain Kirk forgets the girlfriend of the week, and he's back looking for the girlfriend of next week. You had to do this, and that is not the norm now with television series, but back then it was. And to take something like this, which I'm pretty sure, as I mentioned earlier, is probably like a ratings episode, because science fiction was starting to break out at that point. As was mentioned earlier, I think David and Tony both mentioned, I know David did, is that you're looking for a gimmick, you're looking for something that works, and actually it was viable. It worked. It worked. It still works today. It's not perfect, certainly, and from our perspective, it doesn't necessarily, you know, go over the top and say this is a satisfactory ending. But then again, when we go and we watch the end of what's the gangster thing? I'll think of it. Everybody saying and shouting at the radio, whatever it was. The Sopranos at the end. Nobody got a satisfactory ending. Well, you're not going to get that because we're going to throw this thing into syndication. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, but it just recycles and goes back to the beginning. Those are the things that you got to take into consideration, particularly with television, is that how are you going to take care of the sausage factory? How do you keep producing stuff? When you paint yourself into a corner like this, the best answer to do is, oh my, we painted ourselves into a corner. Have a narrative, make sure that that narrative somehow is brought back to the way it was, and that's exactly what they did with this particular show. It was totally off the top. It was totally different. We'll have a dream sequence. It worked for Dallas. We had a dream sequence the entire year. One of my favorite shows, Dark Shadows, which was a soap opera, went on, and at the end, when they found out that the TV show had the soap opera had been canceled, they went ahead and gave a narrative at the end and said, basically, it went back to the beginning. Why? Because they knew they would go into syndication. By the way, that darn thing is still in syndication, all 50,000 episodes, because they, at the very end, they said, it wasn't anything. We've gone back to the beginning. Okay, rant over. I spoke to Bill. Bill said his piece. Next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your characterization on LA 2017 from the name of the game from 1971. Go ahead. This is KE5ICX2J. Go ahead. I think I did that out of order, but go ahead, Jay.
KG5BZW. Let's see. Of course, this is one of those times when I felt like I probably should have written a little bit more than I did, which was nothing. What to say? The characters didn't seem too terribly outplayed, except for, the end, which, you've already covered. And why the end happened like it did, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that, You know, that, especially for, I mean, when did VHS tapes, not VHS, Betamax, when did that even come into existence? I thought it was like late 70s, mid to late 70s. So, I mean, taping episodes just to, you know, see how one episode compares to another is, besides the tapes that the television studios had, I mean, I don't know how many consumers could have done much of that. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that era and before, up until, I guess, late 70s, and well, that kind of thinking of the plot line for specials and just regular shows, it seems to be kind of a common thing. I can recognize that, even though I was not a child of, well, I am a child of the 70s, but not, you know, really wasn't conscious until probably, I don't want to go there, but basically, 80s is where you could say, oh, yeah, I can actually remember stuff. So, anyway, side thing. The characters, I mean, the publisher seemed, you know, when he was in the 70s, seemed somewhat reasonable for, you know, at the time. I don't know why he was recording in his car. Something to do while doing something else, and the whole thing that you have. I guess it was the exhaust pipe that supposedly some sort of exhaust issue or something. There was a shot of the exhaust pipe, and said. And they also said at the very end about some sort of something, exhaust issue, which also is like, if the publisher had actually suffered carbon monoxide poisoning, I don't think he would have been okay to have driven away, but, you know, whatever. I'm not going to pay that much attention here to that. So the publisher fulfilled this, you know, famous publisher character. I suppose it's reasonable. The mathematics I complained about earlier it's all, you know, it's all dressing, really. To say, oh, these are bad people. So, you know, a lot of I can kind of dig into the story and see that, hey, in a lot of ways, a lot of these things are kind of MacGuffins that just don't really have anything to do with anything other than, maybe not quite MacGuffins, but borderline MacGuffin type deals where they don't really do anything but to set the plot forward. I mean, you can comment a lot on a lot of the little characters. There was some interesting. I guess really, when it comes down to it, you've got the police characters, you got the big boss, or boss and bigger boss, the hologram guy, and of course you got the one character that kind of glues it all together, the one that they interviewed. I thought I kind of liked that character, the one that was in jail, but he was being kept alive, but you know, very well restricted. I don't know what I'm saying with this. Let me reset. The character seems alright. Others have mentioned that the imperfections. It was a unique take, what can you do when it's a special like this? You can't get too technical, too deep into how and why and where, and it'd be kind of nice to cover some of that stuff, but we just don't have the time. So it's like, oh, okay, well, we'll slap. Well, I mean, I don't want to say slap, but just it's written such that you know kind of who the bad guy is, who the good guy is, who might benefit from the good guy, and all the other things. I'm not sure. I feel like I'm losing my point, and there isn't really that much of a point. Because it's more a world-driven story. So not world, a political world-driven story. So you don't. Oh no. It is character driven in the main character, but the other characters are kind of stereotypes and all, and I guess that is what I was trying to get at. I don't know. I think I rambled on too much, so I'll have the next person. KG5BCW, back to that.
Alright, as I sit here, I keep pushing my foot pedal back, and I have to, do a search and rescue on it. But that's not anybody's problem but my own. Let's see, next up, KV9SOK. That's Sean. Your comments on characterization. Please go ahead. We were talking about, I put it out of order again. We're talking about the name of the game episode that was done in 1971. Steven Spielberg's has a 24-year-old directorial debut on national television. Please go ahead, Sean. KB9SOK.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I do think the overall actors did a very good job. Obviously, yes, these were very well-known actors for the time. I do think that all in all, they all did a pretty good job. As far as the acting part of it, there are a few parts of the script that were, maybe a little off. It was a little strange. Even our main antagonist, it seemed like, he took the whole thing in pretty much stride. If you were to find yourself once 50 years in the future, I would think that, you might be a little more excited or a little bit, more upset, or they just seemed to take it in stride, and he was ready within a day to start fighting the establishment. But I guess the point is, that, he's supposed to be this very leader-type ship guy and calm and collected, I guess. And to the points that were made earlier, this was a series, and I'm sure this was part of his continued arc, that this was just the kind of person he was. I mean, that I really don't remember the show, so I can't really say that was the case. But to Tom's comments, yeah, that does make a lot of sense that, these stories do need to, reset, because it is a series. And it's just been in recent years that we've got into having these long story arcs, and they can kind of dig in much deeper into the whole thing. So that does kind of make more sense why they had to do this dream sequence. But it's always the fun part of listening to the net, hearing the other opinions, and looking at different ways of the way it could be looked at. Kind of to Bill's comment on the, things hadn't advanced much. If I'm not mistaken, I think they mentioned in the movie early on that the world more or less was in ended there in the early 80s. So it would have only been about 10 years in the future that they basically started going underground. So most likely technology wouldn't have improved much, because if there was only literally 8,000 people left in the United States, then obviously you're not really going to have the resources to develop new technologies. The fact that they had anything that advanced, it would be pretty surprising. Everything would probably stay pretty stagnant. And in most of these apocalyptic type shows, that's typically what happens. Whatever year it happens in, that's just kind of where the technology ends, and you're just using what's out there to survive. One funny part, the one I had to laugh a little bit about the ambulance, because that was kind of funny, the sound effect there. I don't know if anybody else knows, but towards the end, at the final chase scene, they kind of screwed up, because they started out with that same sound effect, but during part of the chase scene, they accidentally let some of the engine sounds through at one point. You could tell it was just a normal motor. So I thought that was kind of funny. Of course, that's kind of going into special effects. But yeah, no, overall, I thought the acting was pretty solid. Which I maybe I missed this part, but the wife of the VP, I couldn't remember if they said, I think they made some comment about her being drugged or something, from the milk or something, which was a little weird, because she was definitely acting very odd. And once again, it wasn't to her ability, it was just the way it was written. But I thought that was a little bit of a strange thing they added in there. So I don't know if that was, they were insinuating that they were doing that to all the women, or if it was just her. So that was his way of controlling her, I guess. So that was a little strange. And then the girlfriend, or antagonist, her role seemed a little strange in it too, a little bit. That her character there seemed to be, yet she seemed very, intelligent in parts, to where, she, had these plans to get out of it, but then other times it seems like she was just, I don't know, at a loss, and was really waiting for somebody else to help her. But overall, very solid movie. Enjoyed it very much. Back to Net Control. This is KB9SOK.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Very good comments. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, so far everyone's comments are very positive about this movie. It's too bad you didn't pick it out as one of your favorites, but go ahead. Your thoughts on characterization. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is WB50ZL. Well, before I talk about the characters, I want to talk about cows. Y'all may not know much about it, but they only saved one cow. They ain't getting much milk. The way cows work is like this. A cow will not ever give milk until after she's had a calf. And then she'll give milk for about 10 months, after which she dries up until her next calf. And this is the process it goes through. When she's giving milk, she'll give 8 or 10 gallons a day, which really isn't all that much when you think about one cow for all those people. Eventually, the poor thing quits giving altogether, and she goes to Bovine University. So I just wanted to point out this little inaccuracy in this movie. I doubt if any of these people have ever been near a cow, and I don't know why the milk was blue. That was gross. Is there any society anywhere that has to figure out a way to make liquor? Come on. How inept are these people? All right, end of rant. I thought the characterization was pretty good. Spot on in many cases. The bad guy was really bad, and the sweet young thing was very sweet and young, and just a perfect little companion. The main character was, Dudley Do Right. Not quite the hero type, but not too far from it. It's amazing to me how dystopian movies are so very dystopian. It's like they're trying to outdo each other. Like, how bad can we make all these world leaders or local leaders make them just laughably evil. So, I don't know. All right, I think I'm going to quit there while I'm still ahead. WB50ZL.
Okay, thank you, Miss Brenda. Some interesting comments. You seem to have some anger issues, but it's okay. We'll accept them for what they are. We'll find a better movie. Maybe like what was in the newspaper guy's room with soothing music and lights above and below. I don't know. Or music that makes you want to go to work and be more productive. We'll have to decide where you're at. Are you in the executive suite, or are you further down the food chain with work harder music? Yeah, that was in there. You forgot about it, didn't you? You didn't recognize it. Well, never mind. Okay, next up is W5EBB. David, your thought on characterization. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
What may I suggest as a remedy for anger issues is a glass of warm milk, perhaps? Now, those in charge had a difficult decision to make to decide who would have the privilege of living underground and surviving. Now, after the me first, comprised of the elite ruling class, the next class of people chosen to live underground would, of course, be a working class who serves and protects that ruling class. Then, remaining on the surface, would be the low-level working class relegated to hazardous assignments like power plants and time traveler ambulance pickup service. Now, Mr. Bigelow's wife seemed dazed and confused, as was mentioned, in an almost catatonic state. But in a moment of anxiety or distress, members of the elite class can always order up a companion or servant who is always just a bat phone call away. I guess they hadn't figured out in their 2017 that antidepressants and the internet could be used as an expedient substitute for the comfort of another human being. Now, Mr. Bigelow, the vice president of Los Angeles, I would not have thought that he would prefer a glass of cold milk over a hot cup of Earl Grey tea. Mr. Bigelow, science couldn't fix the toxic slime, but apparently they nailed lactose intolerance. Now, this VP was among the, quote, more responsible leaders of the corporate community who were able to take over. And they made up a corporate constitution and distributed shares in USA Inc. to their employees, i.e. citizens. I suppose that's a way to govern people and incentivize them to be productive and increase earnings per share. But that could lead to some nonsensical initiatives like their war with England. What was that about? Maybe to acquire that country as a new subsidiary to increase earnings? But when the world inevitably just becomes a single company, wouldn't it necessarily end up feeding internally upon itself, given no external competitors or resources to acquire? And speaking of vice presidents, that used to be a fairly rare and lofty title. But now many large companies, especially banks, have hundreds or even thousands of VPs in their ranks. Of course, you could always just make up your own company and declare yourself founder, president, and CEO of, say, company of one. You can also give yourself a great benefits package, unlimited vacation days, and qualify for a multitude of business loans. And I must contribute my dig about the dream sequence. At the end of the movie, I was half expecting Patrick Duffy, a.k.a. Bobby, to be the one who pulled Gene Barry from his carbon monoxide-laden car. And of the Gene Barry character, I will only say this. Do not trust a man who wears a gold signet ring on his pinky. He might make you an offer you can't refuse. W5EBB.
Oh, David, I should have expected this from you. and nothing less. A perfect synopsis with a slightly snarky conclusion. Very interesting. All right, this is KE5ICX. We are talking about the name of the game, a television series from 1971 having to do with the Steven Spielberg production thing at $328,000. I guess I can't believe they spent that. That doesn't make any sense. But in any case, $328,000 to create a future LA called 2017. Yes, the future. 46 years into the future, in fact. Yes, it was 47 years into the future. Next up is Tony. This is the gang of David, or not. Actually, these two are the intellectuals who can figure this stuff out. ND5TM. Wake up, Tony. Tell us what you think about characterizations for this particular movie. And the name of the game, LA 2017. From 1971. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
My name is Ozymandias, TV actor of TV actors. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair. I stole that from Aaron. So yeah, I didn't want to imply they were bad actors, just that they have been completely forgotten by now, which I guess was a subtle dig at the plot, because I have occasionally spoken to some of the young hooligans in our neighborhood with their comic books and game consoles, and they have often told me that they don't know what to think about contemporary music unless the ghost of William Randolph Hearst tells them what to do. So yeah, it's ironic to me that a movie about how this guy from the past who was needed as an influencer, or at least desired by the elite of his society, also was such a great illustration of the fleetingness of notoriety. Because, yes, some people do remember these actors, but so many of us do not. They're like, who? What? However, that said, if we, suspend our disbelief, which we already had to do for time travel, I actually really did enjoy the plot, mostly. Something I enjoyed about the characters that I want to comment on positively is just how many of them seem to be worried all the time, which is also deliciously ironic in a society run by psychiatrists. Even our big bad, the executive vice president of Greater Los Angeles, was moved by the death of one of the world's few remaining goldfish, which would be worrisome. Everything seems to be dying. His wife was, as pointed out, near catatonic. The sweet young thing was often, she looked kind of disturbed to me. There was a subtle undercurrent there of, oh yes, I'm supposed to seduce you, but I'm not really okay. And of course, our protagonist is confused and worried because he's just been transported into his dystopian future. But really, yeah, Aaron just pointed out that psychiatrists have high suicide rates, and I guess that's appropriate in this movie because everyone does seem worried all the time. And I thought that was a really nice touch. I think it reflected well on the acting and directing. It was a piece of good character development. I enjoyed that. I mean, not in a happy, bouncy way. Who wants to be worried? But it felt very realistic to me. If we're living in these steam tunnels, then, yeah, I'd be worried too. November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Thank you, Tony. Very good comments. Okay, let's see. This is KE5ICX. Do we have any additional check-ins? Please come now. If you have any comments at all, well, wait a minute. Let me take any additional comments, check-ins. Please come now.
KF5 QDA, Kilo India 5, Quebec Delta Alpha. Dan, I'm in Rowlett, and I don't even know what movie you're talking about, but I thought I'd give you another check-in.
right, KI5QDA, Dan, thanks for checking in. It doesn't matter. Sometimes some of these movies are like so out there, it doesn't matter. You can talk about anything you want. Really, honestly, it is. Tonight we're talking about, the movie we're talking about is The Name of the Game, which is a television series from the 1970s, 1971 in fact. And they did, Steven Spielberg at 24 years old directed this movie, essentially, about the future, which is something he does and continues to do. But back then he was 24 years old. And it has to do with being transported to the distant future, the year 2017. Dan, does that sound like something you would want to watch? Just asking for a friend. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Well, I believe I watched the series as a teen, so I think I know it. I liked it, or I recall liking it. And I'm just home from the Weezer, Fall Out Boy, and Green Day concert that was in Arlington. We had seats right under the stage, and it was freaking awesome. I hear half the songs all going off in my head. Spielberg had some of the best stuff when he was youngest. I believe he had a movie called, well, it involved a truck. I can't remember the name of the movie, but I'll go back to the net. KI5QDA.
Dan, that was Duel. Duel. Do you remember that film? It had a big truck in it.
That is exactly right. Duel. I still think that's one of the best movies he ever made. I think he did it in as a project for like film class or something. I think it could be one of the best movies he ever made in terms of you had to think, right? It wasn't special effects or anything like that. It was the viewer had to imagine, and he did an excellent job of putting you, the viewer, in this situation. There was a young, was it Dennis Weaver was the driver that dueled with a truck? You never saw the truck driver, by the way. KI5QDA, I'll turn it back unless you give it back to me.
Dan, you picked a favorite, and that's actually the film that everybody really remembers with Steven Spielberg. They thought that was his first film, but actually this one, LA 2017, I think came before that in the same year. And I could be wrong. I don't know. It could be reversed. But also you got to remember, too, as we go off on this tangent, because why not, right, is that the story for Duel, I believe, was Stephen King. And you're right about Dennis Weaver. Everybody loved Dennis Weaver just before he killed that poor truck driver who was busy trying to kill him. You know? But, yes, indeed. All right, we are reaching midnight, so I'm going to go ahead and ask, anybody have any additional comments or check-ins? Please come to your call sign now, and we'll go down the list. Anybody at all, come with your call.
N5EB. W5EBB.
Bill, go ahead.
N5BB. You're going to think this is nitpicking, but you made the comment that Gene Barry was a actor of the 20th century that never made it to the 21st. He actually acted in a movie that came out in 2005, and it was a science fiction movie. It was a remake of War of the Worlds in 2005, and Gene Barry was the grandpa, okay? He died 4 years later. Sandrell, who was the assistant of Dane Bigelow, and was the supposed love, trying to be the love interest of Glenn Howard. As I said earlier, she was actually a famous actress that acted for decades in everything from made-for-TV movies and these series like this one, and soap operas and everything like that. Anyway, it so happened that the year before this movie was made, she had a son. She gave birth, and she had an embolism from it, and it left her with amnesia and all kinds of other problems, and she had to learn to act again. And I think this was the first movie she made, or the first made-for-TV kind of thing, acting, because caught on film after she had that major medical problem. And it was hidden because her actor friend said, if you let this out, they're going to blacklist you. You'll never serve on anything if they know you have some kind of, big medical problem like that. So she hid it, but she worked very hard, and she got back, and then she acted for decades. Anyway, enough of that. N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. And you're right. War of the Worlds, the remake with, who is it? That guy. Tom Cruise. Gene Barry shows up as the father or something at the steps and everything. Which actually, I kind of like that movie. The remake wasn't all that bad. W5EBB, David, your final comments. Go right ahead from KE5I6.
Well, just a quick tie into the duel discussion. I was going to fit this comment in somewhere. This is as good a place as any. But many of the driving scenes in this movie were shot in a very similar manner as Duel, which was made the same year, 1971. The camera angle, viewpoint, and perspective, like some shots just like 1 foot above the ground, just outside the front wheel, looking back at your pursuer, dust flying up, and you can see the car coming, encroaching, getting closer to you. Very, very tense, very dramatic, very effective. And I think there were a few scenes in Duel that were almost identical in perspective. W5EBB.
Yeah, thank you, David. Directors have a tendency to do that. They go back to what they know, or some directors overdriven, like Stanley Kubrick, go and look for something new. But you get a cast and crew that you're familiar with, and they know your style and everything, and then suddenly movies start falling into a certain category. And there's no doubt about it. That's one of the things that Steven Spielberg would do. Still, he's a wonderful director. Nothing wrong with that at all. But there is a bit of artistic shorthand that goes on, particularly when you're making a movie, either with a very small budget or a huge budget. The same thing applies. You're pressed for money, you're pressed for time, or both. And typically it's both. So I just finished off Space Odyssey, which is a story about 2001: A Space Odyssey, and making that film and what that all incorporated is a wonderful thing. I wouldn't mind doing 2001 again and be able to talk about it with this new in-depth understanding. But it doesn't matter whether it's a very expensive film or a very cheap film. It doesn't matter who is doing it. You have to have audience appeal, and at the same time you have to get the product out, and you want satisfaction. And there's a lot of balancing that goes with that, particularly with science fiction. It's always been an iffy thing. It's always been difficult to pull it off. If you can pull it off, and you can do it well at box office or popularly on television, because it's got this outlier where you've got something that is completely different from all the garbage that you watch over and over again. NC something, taking it to a new level is risky and rewarding, or one or the other, or it ruins your career. I don't know. That's what the risk part comes from. All right, I'm going to say, let me reset. Hold on, I got to figure out what next week's movie is, because I didn't bring that stuff up, and I've forgotten, because there's lots and lots of different things. So let me go to Afterglow Movie. Afterglow Movie, there's 2 words over on Facebook. You'll find the files underneath that will tell you what the next movies are. Even I can't remember. So I am looking it up. Next week's movie is... it is called The 27th Day, from 1957. We're going back to the 50s. The 27th Day, science fiction film. I don't remember anything about it. I don't think I've ever seen the film, but it is a science fiction film. If you want additional information, find out if you would like to get the movie information up ahead of time, which most people do. Send an email to me, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray, KE5ICX at yahoo.com. My name's Tom. Just say you'd like to be added to the list. I'll add you to the list. Or you can go to Facebook.com, of course, and Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, and just sign up there, and you'll find the information. I'll send it usually Sunday morning with the links and everything else. So next week's movie is 27th Day. Does anyone have any additional comments or any final words before I close out the net? Please give me a call.
KI5QDA.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
We have 2 more. Dan, KI5QDA. Go ahead.
Well, I got a couple things. Real quick, it just turned to my birthday. I just turned 62. Part of my birthday present to myself was a brand new IC7300. I have an N-Fed, Palomar N-Fed half-wave, supposed to cover almost all the ham bands. I need some input on how to stealth this around my house. And I think I said this. I just came back from a concert. I'm all stoked. I appreciate you running this net. It's an awesome net, and that's all I have to say. I'm saying thank you to you, sir. KI5QDA, back to the net.
Well, very good, Dan. No problem there at all. I'm going to leave it to the experts after I close out the net here in a minute, but congratulations, and I'm glad you had a good time, both at the concert and after concert. Come visit us again next week. I think you'll have a blast. Next up is NT5TM. Tony, your final comments. Go ahead. You get the last word.
Tom, thank you so much for staying up and being net control, and thank you for an interesting movie tonight. Hearing the comments got Aaron and I talking about A Clockwork Orange and some other interesting things. So, yep, I have no idea how to hide the 7300, but thank you for staying up tonight and for an interesting movie. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. And I actually had to take a nap today. I got up at 4 a.m. this morning, which is becoming more the norm for me. and so I needed to take a nap. I took a 90-minute nap after Moon Day today, and that seems to have worked really well, so I'm happy. I had a blast today. I want to tell everybody I had a really, really good time. Moon Day is one of my favorite things. We missed it last year at the Frontiers of Flight Museum, which is where I'm a docent on Sunday, and I'm going to go down there tomorrow and see my gang again. Had a blast today. I want to thank Dallas Amateur Radio Club and everybody who was down there, the AMSAT group, everybody. It was really, really fun. It was so good to see you guys after a year and a half, or 2 years, really, when you think about it. I'm stoked, too. I'm with you, Dan. Being able to get out in public, be careful, follow the precautions and all of that, be safe, get vaccinated if you haven't already. Let's get back to normal. This is KE5ICX. I'm closing it out to what? 0011 local time. 7-3, everybody. We'll see you next week. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear. Bye-bye.